synthesizer sounds, claps, mid bass lines, everything fights for the same frequency. Hey friends, Silvano here from roughindstudio.com. Today I'm going to share 3 ways on how you can create more clarity for your raw minimal or micro house tracks, because sometimes there is the problem that the synthesizer sounds, claps, mid bass lines, everything fights for the same frequency spot. So I'm going to share 3 ways on how we can tackle this problem. So let's jump in. So let's play the track how it sounded before. It's an awesome production from Bexu. Now let's switch to the processed one. So what I had the feeling in this particular track when I first listened to it was that this beautiful mid bass line and this beautiful clap and also some synthesizer sounds, all fighting for the same frequency spot, right? And that's what I wanted to tackle. Tip number 1 is just take care of the nasty frequencies, right? So for example, cut out low end frequencies where it's not needed. For example, on this bass line, what I was doing was I found that there are some frequencies on the sides, low end frequencies, and I thought that's not needed in this particular bass line, because if I just center those low end frequencies, I get more impact and we make some more space for the other stuff. Let's level match that. So if I turn down this, it's completely mono up to 165 Hertz. That's what I did on this bass line. And I also turned it down a little bit. On this one. Give in this frequency range the clap a little bit more width. I thought maybe I can need this space for the clap, right? So I made this guy a little bit narrower. This is completely mono, right? But it sounds a little bit phasey. So I just did it a tiny little bit. And yeah, there's not much going on. I just lowered it here a little bit in this frequency 2K to 10K. So yeah, that's it. So here you can really hear it's a little bit broad on the sides, right? And now it's more centered. So that's number one. Just take out some frequencies that are not needed. You can also check the clap if we need to cut out some low-end frequencies that are not needed in the clap. Second thing you should do about the frequency stuff is to take out some nasty resonance frequencies. So let's listen to that synth. It wasn't too drastic, to be honest, but for example, to show you this quickly, maybe something around here. Maybe I would take this out. And it sounds already a little bit cleaner. If I take just a little bit, it's minus 1.4 dB. It's really not much. And maybe I go a little bit broader. But what I use for that kind of things is my very secret weapon, man. I shouldn't tell you that because it takes just a few minutes. Not even minutes, it's just a few seconds. I will do a whole separate video just about this powerful plugin. It doesn't work always on everything, but in this particular way I found it works great. So which is the Golfus. It's some kind of an automatic EQ. Yeah, it's incredible what it can do. On this particular track, I just this works, the tame function works like taming those frequencies. It works like a dynamic EQ, right? And this is like the wet dry knob. And I have the feeling it really makes the sound, this synthesizer sound a little bit cleaner sounding, because I think it takes out some of those resonant frequencies, those bad frequencies, but in a dynamic way. As you can see, it works just here a little bit. And since you know I'm a friend of very small changes, so this again is very subtle, but in the sum, if we just stack up nice little tweaks here and there, we get in the end a really great resulting track. I clean out nasty frequencies by cutting out the low end and also using this Golfus EQ, and it doesn't always work, the Golfus, but if it works, it works. Number two was using my good friend Mr. Track Spacer. I had the feeling this bass line and this clap fight for the same frequency range, right? So the clap needs to cut through a little bit better, I thought so. And in my opinion, it sounds like the clap and the bass line is sticking just at the speakers, right? So let's put in the clap processing first. But it still doesn't cut through so good. So what I was doing was I used a sidechain input with the track spacer, and I used the clap as the sidechain input to carve out some space. And you can see it works just around 230 to 2.5K. That's the range where I wanted to have the clap put in. And I was also using it in mid-side mode, so I'm 100% on the mid channel, right? Because taking out this Waves Factory track spacer, back in. And can you hear how the clap comes through a tiny little bit better? It just sticks out a tiny little bit. But again, subtle changes, I love that. And so yeah, that's that thing for the creating space. Using this track spacer, carve out some space and really ask yourself which instrument should play the main role, right? So I like to imagine it like a classic band, a rock band maybe. So think about it: the lead singer, then you have the drummer, then you have the bass player, right? And in this scenario, I thought the bass line plays an important role, but also the clap plays an important role. But I wanted to be the clap. Every time the clap plays, I wanted to be this guy, the frontman, the lead singer, right? And the bass is also very important for this track. But we need to carve out, every time the clap is playing, we need to carve out and bring the clap in front. So this is just my second priority. So if I want to put it that way, right? So yeah, that's it. And I did also the same on some synthesizers, right? I carve out some space, especially for this. For this synthesizer here, this. Again, creating some space. And again, I had the feeling, especially this synthesizer fights for the same spot like the bass line, right? Now I asked again, who should play the main role in this scenario? And this synthesizer, of course, needs to be in the background, like the background singer, in my opinion. And this beautiful arpeggio track needs to be the lead singer, right? So what I did was using again Waves Factory track spacer, carving out some space. So because we want to have the arpeggio bass line as the lead singer, we need to carve out some space for it, right? So what I was using was the sidechain was coming from the bass line. So every time the bass is playing, and it plays always through this track, we carve out some space on this synthesizer, right? So let's have a listen. Now track spacer is bypassed. Now it's in. And it sounds a little bit weird, right? Just in solo, but really inside the track you can't hear that. again, I guess I just used it on the mid side function. Yeah, it's not only on the mid, it works on both, but more on the mids, because this bass line, remember, we monoed the low end, so the main frequency stuff is going on in the mids only. Third point, how we can create more space or create more clarity is just by simply using some reverbs, right? And especially on this one, I use the mid-sized reverb. And it just senses a tiny little bit in the background, but again, very subtle. Again, on this one, I used a larger reverb. And yeah, just use maybe 3 different sizes of reverbs, a small room for all the drums, percussion maybe, a mid-sized one for some stuff that needs to be somewhere in between, right? Because drums play the main role, and in most cases we just want to create a tiny little bubble around a clap maybe. Let's listen again to the clap just quickly. There's a small reverb. Now you can hear it. Now it's really dry. Now we can hear it just a tiny little bit, but if it goes away, you actually can't say, oh, the reverb is gone. You just think, damn, something is missing, but I don't know what. And that's exactly what I want always. That's why I do the subtle changes on all that kind of things, you know. Again. Right? Yeah, just do these 3 things. Number 1, cut out some frequencies where it's not needed. Low end frequencies on the sides. I hear that so often on people's tracks. You get way more impact if you just mono that stuff down there, maybe up to 150 hertz. Out low end frequency where it's not needed on claps, maybe on hi-hats. On the sides, low end frequencies on the sides. Second thing, ask which one should play the main role, and then carve out some space for the lead singer, right? AKA the clap or the arpeggio bass line, sidechain, that thing, right? That should play the main role. And third but not least is using reverb. Use 3 different reverbs, a small, a mid-sized and a large reverb. The small ones just for drums, maybe some percussion. So yeah, that's it. I hope it helps. You can download this track on the Bexu's Bandcamp profile. I will link it in the description. If this was helpful, I have a free gift for you, which is my 7-step low-end checklist. Yeah, it's packed full with stuff just regarding low-end, all the tools, the techniques that you need to really create a tight and balanced low-end for your Rominimal or micro house tracks. Yeah, go and download it on my link. I put it in the description. And thanks again for your time, for watching. Cheers.